It happened multiple times at the beginning of a school year that as they were on their way back to their room, having dropped off a group of students, they come across a child crying in the hallway. Hi y'all, Doc Martha here. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a clinical psychologist and I've been working with children and families who've experienced trauma for the last 20 years, and I've been working in schools for the last 13. In an earlier video, I talk about the rider off the horse analogy. In this analogy, the rider is the prefrontal cortex part of the brain, and it makes its decisions based on information and logic. And the horse is the limbic system part of the brain that makes its decisions based on emotions and protective instincts. Sometimes something happens and the rider goes off the horse. That means that instead of using the prefrontal cortex, using logic and information to make decisions, the brain is relying on the emotion center and protective instincts to make its decisions. Whenever I describe this rider of the horse analogy to educators and caregivers, the first response is often relief. It helps us to feel like we can understand a little bit about what's going on in front of us. Very quickly after that, folks want to know, okay, great, what do I do when someone is escalated? What do I do if my student is escalated, if my child is escalated? My answer, which I understand is deeply unsatisfying, is generally, it depends. I know, I wish I had some magic and I could just tell you this is how to do it, but the truth is that I can't. People, even children, are complex, and even if we think we know the why, the who we are when we show up in the situation is going to be different almost every time. Let me give you an example. I was working with a family once in my private practice, and almost every night, going to bed was a struggle. So we talked about it. The child, the caregiver, and I, we talked about what might be getting in the way, what might make bedtime go a little easier, and we came up with a plan. Everybody liked the plan. Everybody agreed to the plan. We role-played this plan. We talked about what might get in the way. We practiced in the office, and then they went home. And on the first night, it worked. Hooray! And the caregiver was like, oh, I'm so glad. Thank goodness. This will make night times a lot easier. And then the next night, it didn't work. The next week, when I saw the family, we were able to go over the whole week, which nights it worked well, which nights it didn't go well. And the caregiver had some pretty good guesses as to what happened on the nights that it didn't go so well. Like on one night, they had had a visit from another family in the house, and the child was pretty wound up. And so even with the good new routine, was unable to settle down. Now, I don't tell you this to discourage you. I tell you this because A, I don't want you to feel bad if you try a thing and it doesn't work the very first time. And B, because if someone tells you this is it, this is the way, if you just do this one thing, everything will be great, that you take that with a tiny bit of skepticism and remember that it's likely not that simple. Now, in educational circles, a thing that I often hear is that, oh, well, it wasn't done with fidelity. And certainly fidelity matters, and sometimes it isn't done with fidelity, but that isn't the only piece of this very complex picture. All that said, there are three possible ways we can intervene in a rider off the horse situation, and that's with safety, connection, and a sense of agency. If any of what I'm saying is resonating with you, please do like and subscribe. In a perfect world, I would hope that as educators and caregivers, we're trying to meet these three basic human needs on a regular basis. I think of them as sort of foundational prep work. I've heard from many educators that prep is the way to make a lesson go smoother. And there are so many ways that we can build this into our everyday life, but that's for another video. Right now, I want to tell you a story that happened at the beginning of a school year. As many of you know, my partner, Miss Caitlin, is a resource teacher, and she's also blind. She has a reader that works with her, Miss Rose. A reader is an assistant that helps with the visual aspects of the job. It happened multiple times at the beginning of a school year that as they were on their way back to their room, having dropped off a group of students, they come across a child crying in the hallway. Their room is close to the lower grade classrooms, and so these are kids who maybe are in school for the very first time. Sorry, minor camera malfunction. Let me just say that Miss Rose likes the little ones. She thinks they're cute and adorable, and so she sees one wandering around in a hallway, she's going to talk to them. She'll ask them what's happened and if they're okay. They often try to tell her. And even if she can't completely understand what they're saying through their tears, she will offer a little bit of validation. Oh no, that sounds hard. Wow, that's so sad. And then once they've calmed down a little, she'll offer to walk with them to class. Sweet, right? But more than sweet, Miss Rose has just managed to do safety, connection, and sense of agency all in a couple of minutes with children she doesn't even know that well. Let me break that down a little bit. First of all, for children that young, wandering around by themselves might feel unsafe. Now, to be clear, these children are not unsafe. They are in a pod situation. People know where they are. But it might feel like to the child that this is dangerous. And so just by being present with them, stopping and talking with them, she might make them feel safe, or anyway, safer. Next, when she listens to what they have to say and offers that little bit of validation, they feel seen and heard, which can help with a sense of connection. Finally, when she asks if they want her to walk with them back to class, she's offering them a choice. She could just as easily say, okay, now that you're calm, go on back to class. But when she says, do you want me to walk with you back to class? She's giving them a tiny, tiny bit of agency. They get to choose if they walk by themselves or if they walk with Miss Rose. Now, notice that Miss Rose can't actually change anything that just happened. She is likely not fixing the problem. And the choice she's offering is not, do you want to go home or do you want to go back to class? We all need to feel like we have a little bit of agency, like what we do matters. And so even the choice of walk by myself or walk with Miss Rose counts. And there you have it. 3 possible entry points for what to do when someone is having a rider off the horse moment. If you're interested in learning more about the everyday prep we can do to make this go even better, like and subscribe so you see the video when I post it. Take care, y'all.